as we initiate chaos theory guarantees that we'll play like lightning shots sounding like thunder. For every time in the face that it hits us, we're faster. Well, they should know by now. They see the world keeps trying to shake us. It only waits us. The pendulum swings. The pendulum swings. It's in a beautiful darkness. Only another. It's full steam ahead. Full steam ahead. All about the Betty Express. Misdirected from the start. It's a runaway train. I come a freight train. I come a freight train. In a beautiful darkness, the Betty Express. In a beautiful.
Hey, you guys, we are back with the Wolfenbarger case. And if you are not really aware of what the Wolfenbarger case, it is a dumpster fire on top of a Sharknado. Basically, you have Chris Wolfenbarger, who was married to Melissa Wolfenbarger back in the early 1990s, or late 1990s, so 1999, 1998. Melissa disappeared. Throw into this kind of disappearance of a young mother who we come to find out during the trial has given up the rights to her children. Several years after she initially disappeared, dismembered body parts were found very close to where she used to live and where Chris used to work. But add into the mix of, this seeming like an open and shut case, Melissa's parents were involved in the Flint River killings and basically had racked up 5 homicides, so enough to put him into the serial unaliver file. So basically you have serial killer parents, you have an ex-husband, and a woman who was misidentified and mislabeled when her dismembered body parts started to be found. So the state brought this case against Chris Wolfenbarger. Now, because of the power of the internet and the future, we know that he was adjudicated not guilty. But if you go back and watch the other trial streams I have about this, and I do have a little video. Yes, this was the poke the skull with a stick. And thank you, Diane. I'm working hard. I'm going back to my walking pad, which is not as easy as you would think. 10 minutes are on a walking pad seems like a very short time, but as I haven't done it for a lot of months, my body is not liking it. So it's yelling at me right now that I'm continuing to do my 10 minutes. But I know that if I keep doing it, I'll get to a place where I can do 30 minutes and not have a great big leg hates me day. So wanting to get back to that. So thank you guys so much for your encouragements to stay on that and Mr. Mose. And do check out Justice is a Process. I tend to use their feeds of trial because Law and Crime and Court TV we're on day 7 for us of covering this trial, but we're only on day 5 of the actual trial. And both Law and Crime and Court TV had audio issues with all of the testimony from day 5 forward. So we will be looking at, this is going to be day 5. So we're going to be looking at a part of this, and we are going to be dealing with audio struggles as well, even on this stream, but this does at least start out where we can hear it and does have closed captions, so we will keep on top of that. But let's get into this. Now, up to this point, if you've watched the streams prior to this on the Wolfenbarger case, you will agree with me, and I have my notebook here, that the state hasn't made a very clear and convincing case against Christopher. They took a lot of conjecture from Melissa's parents, especially the mother, who reached out to a true crime podcaster about her daughter's disappearance and the body being found. But there are some links that do maybe implicate the parents more than the ex-husband, as the parents their particular victims were dropped off in rivers in trash bags, and Melissa's body parts were found dismembered in trash bags. So their victims weren't dismembered in the Flint River cases, but the use of trash bags, the placing of the body in a very kind of public traffic way that people that are knowledgeable about the neighborhood would have not been able to ignore, the mislabeling and misidentification of the body. Basically, the skull was found first, and then several weeks later, additional body parts were found using cadaver dogs. But the head and the additional body parts were not linked together for many years. So this case is a dumpster fire. It is directly from Georgia. So and we do have linked or pinned on the top of comments. Make sure you're on live and not, selective or whatever it is that, or top chat. Make sure you're on the right chat. I do have a link for bingo cards I made for the Wolfenbarger case because there's a lot of mosey. There's a lot of I don't remember exactly what date or what year, and all the Waffle House in this case. So have your bingo cards ready if you'd like to play along.
The state of Georgia versus Christopher Wolfenbarger, case number 24SC004201. I'll note for the record that Mr. Wolfenbarger is present here in the courtroom along with his counsel, and that counsel for the state is also present. Mr.
I've never seen a judge putting on their robes as they're calling something in. It's very odd.
Samuel.
When I left court yesterday, I think the prosecutors are still in here.
Now, I will let you guys know that this is short, angry lawyer for the defense. He does have some really good arguments about, what the state's trying to bring in, but he tends to be curmudgeonly and a bit disgruntled at all times.
I was walking past, towards the elevator, and one of the jurors was
Sarah.
in the sitting.
You really do look great. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. Well, I will say that it hasn't been all healthy this last week. I think I'm dealing with an ear infection, and it's changed my taste buds to the only thing I want to eat. And I am being legitimate about this. I have probably spent over $30 in jelly beans this last couple weeks, because the only thing that tastes good here lately are caramel corn jelly bellies. No, I am not pregnant. I don't know, but I do go to, no, I probably just have an ear infection and I've ignored it to the point that now I do need to go to the walk-in clinic probably tomorrow, to get some antibiotics. It's just hard to tell where in my body I'm hurting, and if it's to do with CRPS or anything else. And I will let y'all know I am the worst at taking care of actual problems, but my hypochondria is such that I will look up, potential like crazy out of the way issues, but not deal with, oh, my ear's been hurting for a while. So I would not follow me for medical advice is basically all that I'm putting out there.
Area.
Yes, sir.
And he looked like he was, like really, really ill. He was just kind of hunched over, and I have no medical training. Plus, I was debating my role as a good Samaritan, and my job as a lawyer. Fortunately, I saw there was a deputy at the end.
So there actually was a bit of a jury kerfuffle or shenanigans. Now, not in the sense that the juries was doing anything untoward or engaging in misconduct, but they did have one member of the jury who seemed to have gotten either drastically much more ill or had a complication. Now, I do believe that they sat this particular person. I'll have to look at my notes, but I do believe they sat this juror knowing that he had a chronic illness. So the fact that the trial was going to be delayed, this is not something that isn't that you would need Miss Cleo to foresee. If you have someone with a chronic ailment, I understand the desire of wanting to do your civic duty, but there are the real tangibles that you have good days and bad days, and on your bad days, you may not be able to function as a juror. So they're running into that as well as all the other issues that they're running in this case.
End of the hall.
Yes,
And I
sir.
went to the deputy. I said, someone's got to do, I can't talk to this person. So the deputy went back and talked with him. I was not within hearing distance and stayed out of sight. I gathered he was in a great deal of pain from a back injury and was taking medication.
Okay, also, this is the trial where we have lawyer with the good hair. Now, for those of us who are women, do you know the amount of money we spend to get our hair straightened? The amount of time that it takes to have our hair look like that? And this lawyer probably washes his hair with Dawn dish soap. It's so annoying.
I'm not quite sure what happened after that. I mean, the deputy eventually left. And there was nothing for me to do. I wasn't going to sit there with the juror, obviously. I just bring it to your attention that the juror was apparently in so much pain he was taking medication. That concerns me if if he's sitting here in the courtroom.
Well, thank you. Do you know which juror it was by number?
Certainly not by number. It was a black man, not the one who does
Dialysis. So not 43.
and not the taller man who.
Holy giblets, did you get this jury from the handy capable section? I mean, okay, so this isn't the same guy with dialysis. This is another person who is having chronic pain in his back so badly that he's taking medication. And while there are some pain kind of negation medications that don't have serious side effects, there are few and far in between. This is great. I mean, this is what happens when you get all of us handy capable together to do a jury. Maybe get some well people.
I'm sorry, I don't.
Okay. I mean, and the main reason I ask is that I'm surprised that you would have such an encounter and that juror or other jurors would not have communicated to my staff, hey, I'm having an issue. And I've not heard any such communication from that juror. So if they are struggling with that, it's unfortunate, but it seems as if they don't feel the need to bring it to my attention.
I just felt the need for me to bring it to your attention, but
I understand.
I remember, obviously I see the jury. I've never seen him in the jury box appear under any distress. So,
okay. Well, what I'll do for now, rather than, formally inquire or put anybody on the spot, is just, if it's okay with y'all, is just have Miss Johnson check in. She's my JA who takes care of the jurors, and make sure everybody's comfortable. And if you're not comfortable, you're having issues paying attention, you need to let me know so I can bring it to the judge's attention. And let you know if I get any report from that. Okay.
I'll just make a mental note of where he's sitting.
And then maybe you can tell me, we can identify him further so we'll at least know which juror it is. Okay.
I think you're right. I think because Mr. McDermott brought that to my attention.
Mhm.
And as I was going out of the courtroom, I saw that juror. I believe it's a juror who may work for Delta, if I'm not mistaken. This shorter black man. I think yesterday he was sitting in the second
Second or third from the end.
Yes, from the same prosecution that brought us the YSL trial, we've got Miss Adrienne Love in the courthouse again, trying to explain how this, ADA jury is totally okay, and how jurors on, medications fine.
back row. I think he had on green yesterday, and I saw him leaving as I was going towards the right, towards the restroom. It looked like he was getting up from that area and leaving the courthouse.
Hang on just 1 second.
Work on disability.
Now, I will say that this case does have a little bit of backlore. Now, the gentleman that you just saw move forward on the state side, he was actually, he's part of Fannie Willis's kind of administration. He was making a big deal, and he and Adrienne Love were on the cold case file that basically sent this cold case to trial, claiming that they had enough evidence with everything that they've had. And according to the jury, they didn't. But it does seem like this trial was mainly bought to sort of pad out the stats on Adrian Love and Fannie Willis doing a good job on, you know, really closing cold cases. This would not have been the cold case that I would have brought forward with that sort of lack of concrete evidence, but they did bring it forward, and it does seem a little odd to have the prosecutors kind of in charge of investigating cold cases bring this cold case out forward. And there were a lot of detectives. I mean, this is from, you know, 2000 or 1999 in Ford. So there have been a lot of intervening years, but the state had an incredibly weak case. And here I think is where we get into audio issues. Now you can go ahead and mark audio on a Casio Speak and Spell if you have that on your bingo card. This case has been riddled with audio issues from the interrogation with Christopher Wolfenbarger by detectives initially after the cold case file was reinvigorated, being kind of corrupted, to all basic audio that has been brought up in this case being basically recorded on a potato sandwich.
Is that interference something that you've experienced before, or is it something to do with your broadcasting?
I think it might be the broadcasting. I think it might be the broadcasting. Earlier today, it was as clear as day. I could hear every word, so I'm not sure.
Have you attempted to do it on your
Bluetooth.
speaker instead of through the court's audio system, which is not great, to say the least?
Now, for those of you familiar with Georgia and Fulton County particularly, there has been a lot of evidence that in this case, but in a lot of cases in Fulton County, that has either been destroyed or lost. This case has been riddled with the state not being able to find certain things. And I have brought you stories on Mornings with Mo that the evidence containment storage area is riddled with infestation of both mice and cockroaches. So much so to the point that entire confiscations of the devil's lettuce and narcotics are being eaten by these vermin. So I'm guessing the Cocaine Rat movie is going to be coming out of, you know, Fulton County very soon.
On now, so we're waiting for her to get out. That would be one of our last witnesses. I think we had 3 remain.
Forgive me, Dr. Terry is the ME? Okay.
Now, I did look at ChatGPT and other local reporting when this was contemporary. There were no stories or any reason given as to why Christopher Wolfenbarger was in a wheelchair. That being said, I did try to look for it to see if there was maybe a documented injury or a car wreck or something like that, because he hadn't used a wheelchair, you know, in the intervening years, to my knowledge. So people were asking about that last stream, and I did try to dig into that, but nothing came up in local reporting as to why.
Another device not found. Ready to air. Connected to PHEPL 5400039F10.
Now it's connected.
Now, it is interesting that the state's case is closing on a medical examiner.
I think we're okay. So are we ready for the jury? Ms. Hilton?
Yes.
Mr. McDermott?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can we have the jury, please?
Now, it's typical in most cases that the state is going to end with the medical examiner or, the lead detective to kind of wrap things up and put a kind of bow on their case. What is interesting
Be
about
seated.
this case is
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
how the medical examiner is not going to be able to give a whole lot of information due to decomposition that happened on the individual body parts being double bagged in trash bags and a lot of things being unknown. So the state essentially brought a case where they couldn't answer a lot of the, foundational questions: who, what, where, when, and why. They have the when sort of and the why maybe, but how it was done, they waited too late to investigate it. Christopher's home, there was nothing found on luminol or, any sort of massive places where this crime scene, this disarticulation would have taken place. They don't know where that took place. They don't know why she was left there. This case was half baked and taken to trial. And unfortunately now, the sad and tragic thing is that Melissa Wolfenbarger will not get the justice that she deserves because, it was just a crappy investigation from the beginning.
We are ready to go ahead and get started for the afternoon session. Thank you all. Ms. Hilton, the state may call its next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Mike Sprinkle to the stand.
Mike Sprinkle.
Come on up, sir. When you reach the witness stand, before you have a seat, if you'll turn and face the deputy and raise your right hand, he'll swear you in.
You swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir? I do. Please state this clearly.
Fresh from the Keebler elf tree. Is this what happened to Snap, Crackle, and Pop when they broke up the band?
First name Michael, Michael. Last name Sprinkle, Sprinkel.
And good afternoon, Mr. Sprinkle. How are you currently employed?
I am employed as a deputy district attorney at the office of the Fulton County District Attorney here in Atlanta, Georgia.
And how long have you been with the...
So are we to assume you're just as competent as Fannie Willis and Adrian Love? Because that's not a high bar, sweetheart.
District Attorney's Office?
Since June of 2011, so about 14 years.
And what unit do you work in?
I am in the unindicted homicide unit.
And what are your job duties and responsibilities?
How many unindicted homicides are we currently sitting at, sir? I feel like that's the question I would like to ask. Also, why didn't you open your own TCBY? I mean, you could have had a Froyo empire. Who really has the last name Sprinkle and doesn't monetize the shit out of that?
Abilities as a deputy in the unindicted homicide unit?
I oversee the unit, the unindicted homicide unit, which screens the incoming homicide cases that come from the various jurisdictions in Fulton County, and I screen them specifically prior to their presentation to the Fulton County Grand Jury.
And in that role, have you at times worked on cold cases?
I have.
And within those files, have you had to enhance audio or video recordings to assist with your investigation or looking into that case?
Yes.
I want to direct your attention to the Melissa Wolfenbarger case. Did you have any occasion to work on that case?
I did.
And within that, did you have the occasion to enhance a September 12, 2001 Henry County interview video?
Yes. Well, yes. It was on I obtained the original video. It was on a video cassette, like a VHS cassette. I had a VC.
Not a cassette. Are you changing it from Betamax to digital? I love that he's like, it was a VHS. Again, if you want to know why Gen Xers and older Genlennials are pissed off, we went from Betamax to VHS to CDs to Blu-rays to, if you had a rich friend, they had the crystal laser discs, the big huge ones. We have seen too much technology change and had to buy too many new damn machines to listen to music and watch movies. So we are just generally irritated at this point.
DR in my office, and I also had this little USB device that had an RCA connection on it. So essentially it made it so I could hook the VCR up using RCA cables to my computer and then record it. And in doing that, I extracted the audio specifically off the VHS cassette. And I don't recall what exactly I did. I just know that I created an audio file that I could hear better than when I watch the video.
That's not something that he, as a prosecutor, I feel like should be saying, I don't know what I did, because basically he's admitting to taking the original evidence and transmogrifying it in an unknown way. And we had the same thing with the Rittenhouse thing, you know, Zoom, pinch to Zoom. Does that change the evidence? It's not a good look, state of Georgia.
Said originally.
And was that able to help enhance you listening to the audio that was on that video cassette?
Yes.
Okay. And have you had the opportunity to review that audio that you extracted in preparation for your testimony today?
Yes, there was a disc, an optical disc that was handed to me outside the courtroom. There were 2 files on it. And I listened to them, and they were the audio files. There were 2 of them. One was an excerpt from the audio file that I created, and the other was the full audio file that I created.
Y'all are permission to approach?
Excuse me? Go, yes.
I'm going to show you what's in market Stacy Exhibit 73A. Do you recognize 73A?
Yes, this is the disc that I just described.
And did both the original audio and appear to be the full audio that you extracted from this September 12, 2001 video?
Yes, it hadn't been altered or manipulated in any way.
Okay. And then was there a redacted version on there as well?
The redacted version was on there. That was the excerpt of the original, yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would like to admit Stacy Exhibit 73A into evidence.
Mr. McDermott?
No objection.
73A is admitted.
Permission to publish.
Permission granted. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll just remind you, as I have when we've played audio for you, there may be things that have been removed from the audio. You may perceive that, and I'll just remind you that the fact that redactions have been made is not something that you should consider, and why or what might have been said or why the court caused it to be redacted is not something that you should speculate about. Thank you all.
I feel bad watching, oh gosh, what's his name? I'm blanking. The guy who owns the Blaze, Glenn Beck. I feel like I'm watching Glenn Beck the early years before he got the chalkboard. I don't know why, but Mr. Sprinkles reminds me of Glenn Beck the younger years. And I find it odd he doesn't have a chalkboard behind him explaining how and who is corrupt, or how this all makes sense. Now, I will say that the audio in this case has been terrible. It really has. So I'm not even sure if the jury was able to hear this. We are obviously, even with closed captions, not able to really get the context of the audio information that was presented. I don't know whether the jury was able to. I will have to look if jurors spoke out. I kind of jumped onto the Tim's case, and I do need to do more looking into this to see if jurors spoke about whether they were able to actually hear a lot of this, because on the streams you really aren't. Oh my gosh, it's the elf from that wants to be a dentist. It's, oh gosh, it's one of my favorite shows. It's Filbert, the elf that wants to be, you know, an orthodontist. I can't remember. And thank you. This is Sarah for gifting a membership, and that went to Janie J. Welcome to the, well, Church of Mo. We have dark chocolate, sarcasm, and true crime. I mean, what could be a better trifecta? And, you know, included in the trifecta under addendums, caramel corn jelly bellies. So feel free to indulge in those as well. And thank you for gifting a membership. And thank you for being a member for 10 months. Always helpful and to support the channel and, you know, pay for Cosplay Wednesday, new wigs and things like that. Well, and it keeps Mr. Mo off my case for using fun money on cosplay stuff too. So thank you guys.
Your Honor, I object.
Yes, sure. You pause that, please.
I will say that this judge, I know that she went ahead and took over on the YSL case. She does seem to keep a rein on the lawyers, a rein on the state. She does seem very personable with the jury. So she has been, a fairly good judge, even though it seems like her mic is really, really hot.
Ask you
Now,
to step out of the room for just a few minutes. Thank you for your patience.
All right, then, jury.
Just let the jury get clear and then we can.
no, but it does look like Nick. Uh, it does have the long silver hair, so and the Mosey is strong in this Georgia court,
Step
which
off and
is
step back
why
outside, please.
I
Thank
have
you.
it at 1.25 because if not, there would be just a lot of dead space as we wait for the jury to mosey on in. And as a northerner, I don't deal with the mosey pace as well. So
Okay. So just to make a record, the nature of Mr. McDermott's objection was that what was being played for the jury for, I'd say, somewhere between maybe 30 seconds to a minute really wasn't audible, right? It just sounds like Charlie Brown's parents, right? We can tell somebody's talking, but you can't really tell what they're saying. I don't know if the fact
that was an objection. I didn't have Charlie Brown's parent, but I will add that to the Charlie Brown audio. Now you can mark off on your bingo if I think it's audio on Casio Speak and Spell. But the defense does make a good point here. I mean, if you can't understand what is actually being said, is it really useful evidence?
speaker was facing the jury made it more audible and understandable to them, but I didn't get the impression that anybody really understood what was being said. Mr. McDermott's objection was that it was audible at some point, and if it's audible, it ought to be audible in the courtroom or it ought not to be played. We discussed some variations of how we might address this issue, and ultimately, I decided to take a break because I think I understand Ms. Hilton's representation to be that at various times she has listened to that recording and that it is in its, I guess, the point of Mr. Sprinkle's actions of enhancing the audio was to make the entire thing audible, understandable. And if that's the case in some media, then y'all need to take a minute to figure out how to make it audible in this courtroom. And if it can't be made to be audible in the courtroom, then I'm not exactly sure how it's admissible if we can't understand anything being said. The fact that he gave a statement is already in evidence on that date.
Now, I will say that I have found this judge to be very thoughtful and kind of going through whenever there's an objection by either side. It does seem like she takes a moment and really thinks about it or goes to research the case law. So I have found her to be an incredibly fair judge on this case. I didn't always follow the YSL case, but I know that she took over for that judge. So I will say that I have appreciated, especially with this older case with older evidence, possibly contaminated or missing evidence, she's been very fair on, trying to give both sides a fair view of the law.
So.
So Melissa Wolfenbarger went missing, and now it's a bit nebulous because there are different timelines, either late 1998 or early 1999. Now, her body was found, I believe, in 2000. So the skull was found in 2000, and then later the body parts. And for several years after that, the head and the other body parts, only the limbs were found. The torso has never been located. It is unknown whether animals got into it. It pieces of the torso were never found where all the rest of the body parts were. So the only things they really have to go on as far as how this person died is a skull and the limbs of the body. They do not know where the torso is. It has not been found. So they were already starting this behind the eight ball. And then with the audio that can't be heard and a lot of things that the state has tried to present, the evidence either hasn't been there or it's been of poor quality.
Don't have a good relationship with them at all times. Here, God, that's all you know, I can work off you know, but, I mean, shit, but all everything was really, really managed for a while. And you got to understand. I forget. I don't remember what they was living. We were living in Atlanta.
Can you all understand that?
That was this was looking about.
I mean, I can understand it better than I could before, to the extent that audio quality is always an issue.
Best parts in the middle.
This is Sarah. I don't know why the investigation was so poor. And it seemed to start at the genesis of the investigation when the skull was found. They did go out and pick up the skull, but they didn't look in any of the surrounding areas for more body parts that might have been, left in that general area. It took almost a month before they got cadaver dogs to look for other body parts, and that's when they found the limbs. But they weren't, categorized as possibly being linked to the skull and were in fact mislabeled as a young white male, despite the female officer that found the limbs claiming that the feet to her looked more feminine. So there were a lot of missteps in this case. And it isn't helped by the fact that Melissa's parents were such high-profile unalivers in their own right. The state did bring on their star witness of Norma, the mother of Melissa, who was implicated, if not adjudicated, as an accessory after the fact and disposing of the victims of the Flint River killings with her husband. So this is a really just cursed case, basically. But if you want to get deeper into this case, I would watch the stream where Norma testifies, because you're going to find yourself really not believing a lot of what she says. She's very proud of her unaliver husband, which is kind of weird, and claims that he was going to get parole if Chris Wolfenbarger was found guilty for the Melissa Wolfenbarger's death, that her husband, Carl Patton Jr., was going to be released on probation. So there are a lot of different weird things. There's the introduction of YouTube and true crime, because Norma basically the mother of Melissa went to this true crime woman to sort of get Chris Wolfenbarger adjudicated guilty. And I think we're going to see a lot more trials like this, unfortunately, where people don't understand that things that can be brought up in a cold case or true crime podcast are not admissible in court. And this is the second trial where a cold case was kind of hyped up in true crime, and it simply didn't have the admissible evidence needed to actually go to trial. Now, the other case that I'm talking about was, I believe, Michael, and Michael was the first name, but it was a case in Arizona where this father had been alleged to have taken his either stepdaughter or daughter's life a very long time ago. And a lot of the sort of true crime podcasts that had dealt with, the victim or the missing girls, relatives and family members, they brought in a lot of, evidence that is really, really interesting on a true crime podcast, but not admissible in courts. And that case ended up getting oh gosh, what is I'm drawing a blank. Basically, the first time I've ever seen a judge when when the state rests its case and the defense goes up and says that the state did not meet its burden, that was the one time that that the judge agreed that the state had not met its burden. And I think if you would look objectively at this case, it's probably another one that shouldn't have been brought to trial on the evidence they tried to present. This could have been a case that actually found answers had they gone and done a really good job. But there are a lot of different layers. Norma had a contract with Netflix to kind of basically do the Flint River killings with her and her husband, all the way up to their daughter's ex-husband being adjudicated guilty for red rum. So it came out in trial that Norma had signed a contract to benefit if Chris Wolfenbarger was convicted. So, yes, this case is all of the crazy.
That's 10 minutes.
She's solid something.
That's 20 minutes.
If it's the same quality all the way, and the judge thinks that's all.
That's about 25 minutes in.
Okay.
No, I just want to start at the beginning just to see how far.
Thank you.
We are going to speed through listening.
Intros him. What I can hear here is him just getting his name, where he lived, and that's the first minute.
Okay.
So we would propose starting at about 1:30, a minute and 30.
Is there any, forgive me if that's what you've just said, Ms. Hilton, but is there any understanding about what it is that was being said before that no one can understand? Do we not know?
So I can hear what he's saying. What he's asking is his contact information in the first minute. He's asking him to give me a little bit of background of their history. The detective has him go back over your history, and then he starts.
Okay.
And that's kind of where this is really where he starts talking about their history.
Okay.
And we're at a minute and 45 minutes.
Okay. So what is the time designation on that tape that you're going to start playing?
I'm going to start it at 1:40 or 1:35 to the end.
Mr. McDermott?
I'm still not happy with the quality of it overall. I think asking the jury to sit through 20 to 30 minutes of that is going to be, its own form of torture.
Yeah, it is. It's against the Geneva Convention to make a jury sit through 20 minutes of Charlie Brown inaudibility.
And I don't necessarily see the probative value of it because so little bit of it's audible, you can pick up bits and pieces. That's not a fair copy of an interview, I don't think. It's certainly not anything that would get close to a rule of completeness. So I would still object to playing it at all. If the court has determined that that's audible enough for the jury, obviously that's your call. But I maintain the objection to not play it at all.
Okay.
And furthermore, we've heard testimony from Detective Stott, who kept fairly detailed notes about this interview, and he gave us a pretty thorough rundown of everything that was said in it. So
now, I will say this isn't a blanket indictment of all the police officers. There were some officers and detectives who seem to have taken fulsome notes and have done a really good job. But we also ran into a problem of the state losing some of their notes. In fact, there was an allegation from one of the detectives that some of his notes were not included, with the information that the state gave him to review. He kind of asserted that he had done more reports and they had been lost. So this has been a cluster F from start to finish with the state.
I'm not sure what's going to be picked up from listening to this tin can version of it.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Stott couldn't remember certain things that I asked him as far as dates. I asked him specifically about some dates, specific things that Mr. Wolfenbarger said about relationships, relationships that he had with the Patton family, and there were just things he did not remember. And I believe I asked him towards the conclusion, does the video contain the entirety of your statement? Would that be the fairest representation of your interview with Mr. Wolfenbarger? And he said yes, because everything that I asked him, he did not remember the full contents of this audio, of this video interview from 2001. And we do think it's relevant to play the video was in. What we're now doing is trying to make sure that the jurors can hear the audio from that video so that if they wanted to play the video,
Now, we were presented with the video of this, but the audio was terrible. So it does seem like they've tried to work to clear the audio for this particular interview. But as you guys heard too, it's still not the greatest quality, and they haven't been forthcoming on the processes they use to clean up the audio.
could play it in the back, but here is the audio that goes along with this video. And the redactions are redactions in which we advise the defense that we were taking out certain portions. The portions that are redacted from the video is Mr. Wolfenbarger's criminal history. Those are the things that are out, but everything else is what Mr. McDermott agreed should be in. Matter of fact, he asked for us to add something in that we had taken out that referenced Mr. Wolfenbarger's criminal history. So we believe that this is a depiction so that the jurors can hear fully what Mr. Wolfenbarger said in 2001.
I guess my final point would be that, oh yeah, I did agree to some redactions. Those are not the issues we were talking about here. My final point would be this. We're playing something for a jury that we're all sitting here listening to, and we can pick up bits and pieces. Some of it we can hear, some of it we can't. Some of the stuff in that interview I consider exculpatory and good for the defense. Other things I'm sure the state considers good for their case. We have no idea what the jury's going to be able to hear or not hear out of any of that. And it's just not, you're taking a crapshoot. And I don't want that going before the jury. If we have a clear version of that, then I wouldn't object to it. But there's just no way of telling what anyone's going to pick up from that. And that's not a fair thing to put before
That's
the jury.
fair.
And I think that goes to weight, not admissibility, Your Honor. They can argue that it's not clear. They can argue whatever. They can blame the state for the bad audio. They can do all of those things. But we can put this speaker up there and they can hear whatever it is that they determine that they can hear, and the defense can do with it as they wish.
I mean, you're not wrong, Ms. Hilton, in terms of the defense can use it against you if they choose to, right? And make the arguments that Mr. McDermott wants to make. I will say that I think the thing I'm frustrated by, and I blame it on the court technology, not on the state, but the thing I'm frustrated by is if you can play it at your computer and hear it, right? And not in this weird garbled state that it is now, why can't we? That's what I'm frustrated by.
But I think as I played it a few seconds ago, we were all able to hear it.
Yeah, but you're only able to hear bits and pieces. If you can't hear the full kind of interview, then I do think you might, and I am not a lawyerologist, but there is the rule of completeness. And if you cannot understand the whole thing, if you don't understand context, you're basically throwing spaghetti at the wall and asking the jury to kind of fill out this Mad Libs interpretation of an investigation that they can hear piecemeal.
I mean, I don't know how this both
Is that what the audio sounds like when you play it for yourself at your computer or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I can hear the words.
Except that you're telling me that, like, you're telling me things that are being said at the beginning of the video that I can't hear. And that's what I don't understand. And it's not that I can't hear it, it's that I can't make out anything, and I don't understand why you can if the court can't. And is it an audio quality issue because you're listening to it?
It does seem a little bit interesting that she can discern what is going on when it is garbled to the point of unintelligibility to us. Now, whether maybe she does, my mom has the hearing of a supersonic bat. So Like, even she could hear me saying stuff in my head, I swear to goodness. So I know there are people with supersonic hearing abilities. Now, that has never been me, even less so now that I have an ear infection, I think. But it does it does stretch my ability to suspend my disbelief when Miss Love is the only one that can comprehend the audio.
You know, on your computer or whatever.
I'm not sure, Your Honor. I mean, I can maybe bring it up closer, bring this speaker up closer to the court so you can hear it, what I hear, but I can hear I can hear him, and maybe because I've listened to it, I know what's happening, and that could possibly be the case. But as we moved the speaker down, and I kept asking and starting at different points, I think everyone heard everything. That wasn't hard to hear. It was the first minute and 30 seconds. But I believe that everything after that, when I stopped it at the various points a few seconds ago, I believe everyone heard, or at least no one communicated that they did not hear what was being projected on the audio.
Okay. Mr. McDermott, your objection is going to be overruled. I'm going to let the state play the audio for whatever it's worth. Okay?
I'll just note for the record that Ms. Hilton stated just a minute ago that she would be willing to put the speaker up closer to the jury, quote, so they can hear whatever they can hear. And that's my argument.
Right, but that's always, I mean, that's the problem with the quality of videos. Sometimes the ones that were done 3 days ago in a police interview room that's outfitted with appropriate audio, whatever's there is whatever's there, and whatever the jury hears is what the jury hears based on what's there, and that's just a sad fact of life. So your objection is noted for the record. It's overruled. And you're going to start it at the 135 mark? Okay, if you'll go ahead and cue that up at the 135 mark.
It's ready.
Okay.
Okay. So let's fast forward through the
Ladies
jury
and gentlemen, thank
all
you.
coming
Ms.
I guess.
Ms. Hilton, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The sprinkles are back. Mr. Sprinkle is back. All right, we are going to watch this at 1.5 speed because a lot of this is just going to be audio that we can't understand. So basically, the only reason that Mr. Sprinkles is up on the stand is for this cursed audio that he got from a VHS tape. Now, it is iffy as to whether the jury was even able to understand anything.
Later on, there's someone who's in there fighting. You gotta work to the point where they're on your yeah, I took over there. I guess they got screwed where it is. She put it out over there, but he was it. She tried to get in, she said, long for 3 or 4 days, time to come back, we have information. Then, she come back, come there, she go, give me the hell on all the time, about 10 times ago. This was right around, thank you, I remember that. I was thinking it was down in time. You know, I'm gonna say, I did. She come back. She goes on, she was like, good, baby. She stayed here last week. I just told her to get her stuff. She can stay there. She left again. Come back a couple days later. She come back and we won't talk that night. The next morning, I was up. She didn't know I was there. Left, she was. I wouldn't mind being on one train,
Effusive praise from Zach. Mo is marginally exceptional looking. I'll take that and I'm putting it on my LinkedIn. I'm stealing it. For those of you who just came in, this is the Chris Wolfenbarger case. We did start covering this before I went on to hang out with Megan Fox and covered the Timms case. This is another case from Georgia out of Fulton County. It is basically just a dumpster fire of a case. You know, It is all the crazy. I do have a little intro video that's about 17 minutes long because there is a lot of crazy packed into this case. We have serial unaliver parents, we have Netflix contracts, we have just all sorts of stuff in this case. Now, because of the future and being incredibly behind on this trial, we do know that Chris Wolfenbarger was adjudicated not guilty on the death of his ex-wife. But unfortunately, because this case was kind of rushed and the investigation and the trial was brought with this terrible, terrible evidence and just all sort of shenanigans in the investigations, the sad reality at the end of this is that Melissa Wolfenbarger will probably never get the justice that she deserves. That being said, let's get back into the Charlie Brown audio that this case is just famous for.
I struggle with it. You get on the platform, maybe just get one over. Yeah, you're there's a 98, somewhere I think in effort I've told you that
And thank you for gifting a membership. This is Sarah, and that went to Zach. Welcome to the Church of Mo. We have dark chocolate, sarcasm, and true crime. I mean, well, and dark humor. You know, it's a quadfecta of a trifecta, really. We don't believe in math or triangles here. God, Mr. Sprinkles looks so uncomfortable. I mean, this man should have been a proctologist. He just has that face. So basically, we are listening to audio. I am fast forwarding because a lot of the audio is going to be inaudible to us. He's in this introvert hell that we're like, oh crap, we're the center of attention. What do we do with our hands? This man likes to be an inside cat. And unfortunately, he had to go on the witness stand. And it's even more odd that he is an assistant DA on the stand talking about enhanced audio that sounds like Charlie Brown. Zach for $5. Lesko suddenly thinks being nice to people in the last few months of his life will get him into heaven. Wrong. Blessed are the cheesemakers. Zach, you're making me scared because my whole plan is to repent upon my death. So if you're saying that this loophole is of heavenly repentance is not open to me, I'm going to be sad because that's the only way I'm making it into heaven or purgatory. Let's be real. More likely purgatory than actual heaven. But as long as I get there, I'll be okay. Maybe. Yeah. Life is weird that he was a living turd. I will say a lot of the hard time I have with the audio is also, I don't know if it's a Georgia thing or a Chris Wolfenbarger thing. He tends to really not enunciate his words. I know we have it on 1.5 here, but even on normal, it's hard to understand him. I mean, and this audio is cursed from Hades. I mean, it doesn't get better.
I'm like, you don't really the emotions or whatever it's going to take to me, and just like this, it's better off. I just leave wrong, you know. It looked like they like tracks and stuff come on with it. Yeah, I don't really key up on all that, you know.
Blink, Mr. Sprinkles, are you okay?
Basically, what had happened was, you know, from the conversation I had with that time ago, she got a very good guy, right? And you see what they put talk to me, like all these people were living in one house, like 5 or 6 of them in one house. And, you know, just the party locked out, or you go out and party and see everybody all the time. And she was like, she felt like she was missing out on all that. Didn't she?
So there is just a lot of audio. Again, they did try to put this interview into evidence as a video recording. The audio to that was completely redonkulous. So they basically try to clean up the audio for the jury to understand. But basically, there's not a lot that people are getting it up.
I'm trying to go over there, you know, so you know, that's where after you start coming by there, because every time you think you come out of the home, you know, I call the court, you know what I'm saying? And because one time we were we I called that to start with you there, she goes, they go out. I said that the person is this girl is the only one who wasn't involved with y'all.
All right. No, I don't need this. Where? Chris Wolfenbarger. Sorry, I'm trying to. The way they've got this chopped up because of audio issues is just insanity. What is this? Day 4? No. I did have everything somewhat put together, but that is just where. All right, so we were on day 5, and it basically was just all of the audio. Do be sure to give a like and subscribe to Justice is a Process. They are doing really good streams. I have had a lot of respect for them covering this, and they've been able to get some pretty good audio where other places have not. So now we are on day 6, but day 7 of us covering this. Is this the day that has a bunch of... Now, I will say, I know I got a lot of flack for saying that Brian Koberger, just to me, optically, was deeply unsettling with his sort of very flat affect and kind of eyes that gaze through you. I will say that Chris Wolfenbarger also has a very flat affect throughout this case, and I could see that the jury might find that off-putting. So it is probably something that as time goes on and these trials become more sporting event, become more live TV, that, you know, how their defendant presents is going to be maybe a bigger part of the legal case than it used to be, because things are being televised and people are watching them. So I do think that, you know, a lot of how the defendants react, I do think that there's going to be a special sort of legal subsection of people that look at how the defendant is being perceived and how to make those perceptions better. So I don't know, but he was unsettling to me just with the flat affect as well. So it's not just, Koberger that kind of creeps me out. It's anyone who doesn't really give me, you know, feedback as to what they're thinking. I kind of don't like that. Now, if you are jumping in on this trial, there were substantiated allegations of DV against Christopher Wolfenbarger. There was a police report that was initiated by Melissa, and some allegations of DV in their marriage. They were both very young, I think 17 and 18 when they got married. Um, and it does seem like Melissa had a very chaotic childhood, but these are things to keep in mind because there were sort of a a reason. And Boosh, the sort of 5 minute, well, rundown on this case. Basically, Melissa Wolfenbarger went missing around 2008, 2000, or not 2000, 1998 and 1999 to 2000, in that area. She was married to Christopher Wolfenbarger and they had two young children. Now, it was a tumultuous marriage. They were very young. They got married when Melissa turned up pregnant, and she was a teen that was running away from home constantly to hang out with Christopher. She got pregnant. They got married with parental blessing, but it was not a stable relationship. So there were allegations of DV. And Melissa disappeared right around 1999 near Christmas time. And she was missing for about a year until a skull was found very close to where Christopher and Melissa used to live and work. But that skull was just taken in as a random skull. It wasn't until weeks later that the police investigated further around the area and ended up finding two arms and two legs double bagged in black trash bags very near to where the skull was found. But for some reason, only Georgia can understand, the skull that was found in a black trash bag was not linked immediately to the limbs found in black trash bags that were found very near. In fact, they were mislabeled as possibly being to a young white male. So these basically, Melissa's disappearance was not at all linked to the skull or the limbs for a very long time. Well, to add another level of crazy onto this case, around 2003, Melissa's parents, particularly her father, Carl Patton Jr., and his mother, Norma Patton, got in a little bit of trouble for some past red rummings themselves. Yes, Carl Patton Jr. was the infamous Flint River red rummer, responsible for 5 unalivings and basically charged with being a serial unaliver. Well, he was actually charged, the father, Melissa's father, was actually linked to both the limbs and the skull due to his DNA being captured after he was arraigned on all of these felony counts of murder. So he was actually linked to Melissa, these being Melissa's remains, but Carl was actually in the crosshairs for a while for Melissa's disappearance. Now, Carl Patton Jr. and Norma decided somewhere in the fig Newton of their imagination that if they could just show that Chris Wolfenbarger was responsible for Melissa's death, that somehow Carl Patton Jr. would be adjudicated or given parole for his other, red rums. So Norma Patton kind of made it her mission to go to different true crime people and try to get Melissa's story out there. Well, she did end up hooking up with a true crime podcaster, and somehow they got the public support to get this cold case to trial. The problem is that this is Fulton County, and Fulton County has an incredibly just checkered past with keeping documentation, evidence, and information in this case. A lot of this case has been, we can't find the evidence, the audio is corrupted, believe us, bro, is basically what this case has boiled down to for the state. Now, the state did put Norma on and Chris Wolfenbarger's two children who were very, very young at the time of this potential incident. But this is the state sort of rounding out their case and ending their case. Now, we do know, because of this being adjudicated about 2 months ago, that Chris Wolfenbarger was found not guilty by the jury. So I thought it would be an interesting trial to look and see why the jury didn't believe the state. And having watched the majority of the state's case, I can tell you that the state either lacked evidence, had witnesses, its own detectives that were on the stand that basically said, half of my reports are missing. So this case has been a comedy of errors. We are getting close to the closing of the state's case on this particular timeline, but not only were there audio issues just on, you know, the interviews and a lot of the evidence that the state tried to present, but there are audio issues on the actual stream. So justice is a process. I will go ahead and put their link in the chat. Give them some love. They have been a great source for me finding these trials, and I don't know what internet magic they do, but the audio is better on Justice is a Process. So give them some love, give them a sub. I tend to use them when Law and Crime and Court TV fail me.
Signed. I don't know if it's been filed yet or if it's been sent back to you, but I am aware of it and I have signed it.
Okay. Is that,
What more do we need to do in order to get the sheriff?
That is a question for Ms. German. So let me find out where she is in status and who she's notified. Ms. German, when you get a moment, if you could, let me into the Zoom.
Now, I will say, in addition, there were some issues with the Fulton County Jail. Chris Wolfenbarger came into the first day of trial. He was allowed to wear civilian clothing, but his hair was just a doggone mess. It looked like Youngest Most Feral. It was sticking out like 17 different cowlicks. And it came to the judge's attention that he had not been allowed to get a haircut. So she did facilitate him getting a haircut and looking more put together and presentable. But it's nothing out of the ordinary for what we've heard of the goings on of Fulton County, but this trial really brings to display the kind of infrastructural issues, the audio issues, and the jail issues at Fulton County.
And to come here for just a moment, please. Thank you.
This trial nearly killed me. I hate places that say we're going to start at 9. I am too type A to function. So the fact that they get rolling actually starting in the trial like at 10 o'clock sometimes really bothers the snot out of me.
Whether it's been accepted that you can then present to the sheriff, she's also going to call upstairs to the sheriff and let them know that request has been made.
so I'm required to take it to the sheriff?
I believe that the defense is required to make that request, but we are also notifying the sheriff of the request.
Thank you. I guess all I'm saying is, I might just show it to her. That's fine. Instead of looking through the whole.
Now, I will say that I like Ponytail Lawyer better than the short, disgruntled lawyer. I do like his presentation better. The short, disgruntled lawyer tends to kind of just be grumpy and cantankerous. And I kind of like that sometimes, but when we already have to deal with the BS of them being chronically unprepared.
I have one moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
He does kinda. And if you are just joining in, I do have a bingo card for this trial. So if you want to play bingo, there are cards available pinned to the top of the chat, and make sure you are on live chat and not top chat.
Thank you for your patience this morning. We are ready to go ahead and get started. Mr. Fossett, the state may call its next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, this time the state will rest this case.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McDermott, defense may call its first witness.
We did the motion already.
Yes, sir.
Okay. At this time, the defense calls Kimberly Cameron.
Okay.
We will be hopping around in this trial. The entire audio for day 6 is a bit all over the place. So this is the only place that I could find certain snippets of this even going on. So we might have to go back and get the kids, because the kids did testify for the state, but the audio was pretty messed up. So I will be going back and finding those. But basically, the state brought a whole lot of nothing and corrupted evidence in. Oh, the Mosey is strong with this court.
There, before you have a seat, if you'll turn around and face the deputy and raise your right hand, he'll swear you in, okay?
Raise your hand, please. You swear or affirm to the testimony that you're about to give the whole truth and nothing but the truth, sir? Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
And ma'am, if you'll do me a favor and scoot up to the microphone, get situated however you feel comfortable, but make sure you're close enough to the microphone that you can speak into it, because I can already tell you're a little bit soft-spoken. And state and spell your name for the record, okay?
Kimberly Cameron.
Okay, you know I have to do a fashion and hair talk. So if you have hair talk or fashion talk on your bingo card, you can go ahead and mark it. I actually like her hair. I do think that there could have been a little bit more dimension in it, but the long layered look, it looks fine. Maybe she does need curtain bangs on the side. And I like the dress, although I would tell you that those tulip sleeves would bother the ever-living hell out of me after a while. And I like her glasses. So all in all, I do think that she needs some more lowlights. She is of the very pale variety like me, and we tend to need a lot more dimension to not look washed out. So I would have put in some red, but I would always put in some red to everyone's hair. So I really am not the litmus test of, blondes are good.
Kimberlycambron.
Okay, and also we will remind you to try to talk more slowly, because the court reporter needs to take down everything you say. And I will add a caution the judge has given other witnesses that there's a ledge right by your chair, so be careful not to roll off to the
Have
side.
a great lunchtime,
All right.
Wolfram.
No. Ms. Cameron, do you know the defendant?
I do.
How do you know him?
It's my brother.
And did you know Melissa Wolfenbarger?
Yes.
And how did you know her?
She was married to my brother.
Okay. And did you know her while she was alive?
I did.
Did you spend time around her?
Yes.
Okay. And how and where did you spend time around her?
When they were married, they lived with my grandmother, so I would go there and spend time with her.
And would you do that frequently?
Yes.
So you suffice it to say you spent quite a bit of time around Melissa.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember any episodes growing up with her that stick out in your mind?
Yes, I remember when I was learning to drive. I was so nervous that every time I would drive, I would go over to the side of the road.
You would pull over?
Well, when a car was coming toward me, I was afraid that I was going to hit that car. And so I would pull over and she would calm me down.
Okay, I will say that there is nothing more terrifying if you're a timid driver. This does take me back to when I was first learning how to drive. There's nothing more terrifying than seeing a car coming toward you, even if they're coming in the opposite, lane of traffic where they're supposed to be. It is kind of intimidating. Like, they have a car, you have a car, you're assuming they're going to stay in their lane, but you don't know this person. So I totally resemble this woman when I was attempting to learn how to drive. Rest in pieces, those mailbox, and God bless Bondo. It should be given to every teenage driver.
Do you remember when Melissa was pregnant
Yes.
with Chrissy?
Yes.
And then about a year later with Joey?
Yes.
And do you remember her having discussions about the custody of those children?
I do.
And do you remember what she ultimately chose as far as a decision in that regard?
She decided to give custody to my mom.
Now, for those of you who may be just coming into this case, the state and Norma, definitely Melissa's mother, really fought this particular fact. Now, Melissa did sign the rights of her children, her very young children, over to Chris's mother. And according to Chris and Chris's mother, it was because she did not want her children potentially going to her parents because they had a very strained relationship. And the defense's kind of notion of this case is that Chris did not do this, but Melissa's parents, upon finding out that Melissa knew about their sordid red rumming past, took care of Melissa. So these are questions that have not been answered, but it really does paint a different picture when you listen to the state's kind of versions of events, that this was a young mother who would never leave her children to go away, that this was out of character. And then to hear that she has signed away her rights to Chris's parents, according to Chris's mother, and it is hearsay, but according to Chris's mother, to keep Norma and Carl Patton Jr. from getting any sort of custody or any sort of visitation with her children. So, yeah, the parents being serial red rummers, not great as far as custodial, things. So there is that. Like I said, this case is crazy. There are so many layers. But if you've just jumped in or just re-jumped back into this trial, it is good to note that this is kind of the main point of contention from the state and the defense, is kind of what Melissa was like. Because according to the state, she was a young mother struggling with DV in the marriage and had moved on to another relationship. And according to the defense, she was a young mother, but she was a young mother who had moved on and signed over parental rights to Chris's mother. So it is interesting to see these different stories play out.
And why did she discuss her other parents?
She did, and she said that she did not want her mother or the state to have her children.
Did she at any time give you a reason why she didn't want her children with her parents?
She did. She just, she did not elaborate. She just said that they were not good people.
Okay. You said you visited Melissa multiple times because she lived at your grandparents' house, correct?
Correct.
And you went over there multiple times. Were you generally over there during the holidays?
Yes.
Was it pretty much every holiday?
Yes.
Do you remember, you spent most of the holidays with Melissa then, correct?
Correct.
Do you remember if Melissa at any time called her mother on a holiday?
Not to my knowledge.
Do you remember her calling her mother anytime?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Do you remember her writing letters or cards to her parents?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay. Just a minute, Your Honor.
Now, that was another big contention from the state versus the defense. Basically, Norma claimed emphatically that Melissa was the one that kind of kept in touch with the family, that, there wasn't an occasion where she wouldn't at least drop off a card or offer to take her parents out for birthdays or anniversaries, and that Melissa was really good at keeping contact with them. Now, the defense obviously disputes that a little bit, but it is interesting to see how two completely different narratives can come out about one person. At least that's the thing that nerds me out on these things.
Sure. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Questions for this witness? Yes.
how are you?
Good morning, good, and you?
I'm doing well, thank you for asking. You just testified that Melissa told you she did not want her parents to have her children. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. What year was this? Do you remember having these conversations with Melissa?
I don't remember it exactly, but it was between 96-ish.
Okay, 96-ish. All right. Permission to approach, Your Honor?
Sure.
I'm going to approach with what's been in witness exhibit number 71, and I want you to read this entire letter out loud, Stacey exhibit number 71.
Dear Mom, hello. It's been a while since that.
Hang on, sorry, yeah. If you would just try and read it a little bit slowly, especially when we're reading things, we have a tendency to speed up. And again, the court reporter has to take it down, okay? Thank you.
Dear Mom, hello. It's been a while since that weekend that I last talked to you. I thought that I would write you a letter. I'm okay. Here are some pictures of Chrissy, 7.5 months.
Now, regardless of what this letter says, if Melissa truly was fearful or knew that her parents would react badly to this information, at the age of, I think she was in her early 20s at the time of the incident, there is no way that I would write a letter telling my mom that I didn't trust her to watch my children, especially if I was aware that my mother would have an extremely poor reaction to it. I would probably gloss over, send pictures, and avoid the situation. So for me, her having a letter that tries to portray a, above board, everything is normal relationship with her mother isn't as concrete evidence to me. I mean, we all have our things with our parents, like the secrets of the teenage shenanigans we got into that we would never tell them. But, if you do have a difficult relationship with your parents, this is not out of the realm of something that you would do to avoid conflict. So her having letters where she doesn't discuss in great detail the custody of the children are not the smoking gun to me that maybe the state thinks they are.
Can you, I'm not sure what that one says, please.
Does it say you can pass them out?
Yes, sorry. You can pass them out if you wish, but it won't for the fact.
If it wasn't for the fact that Kathy was there when I got them, she would not have gotten any.
She would not.
And again, putting the blame on someone else, making Kathy the bad guy when you realize that your parents would react negatively to the fact that the custody was given to Chris's mother, to make someone else the bad guy, to kind of push that responsibility onto someone else and kind of take herself out of this. This sounds something that's very natural with kind of eggshell parents, that you will make someone else the bad guy, or you will edit stories in such a way that you aren't going to get in trouble. So again, maybe this is just my, maybe having a rougher kind of relationship in my teens with my parents and noting that this is something that I would have probably done to avoid conflict. It doesn't strike me as all that out of the ordinary for someone to do if they did have a very difficult or controlling relationship with their parents.
I have gotten any of them. She wanted me to give Chris's grandmother the biggest one, but I didn't. And she got mad at me, but oh well. They are both getting on my nerves. They act as if Chrissy is their daughter and not mine. And there is something that I need to tell you, and I really don't know how. So I will tell you like this. And do you want me to continue?
Yes, please.
You will sooner than you think have another grandchild. July 27th is the due date. Do not be mad because you are not the only one just finding out. Please. Not sure.
Does it please don't rub it in, mentioning something like, how hard it
Adrian Love is here to be the onboard translator for the Charlie Brown audio and apparently Melissa's penmanship reader. And my oldest is doing well. She's having fun in college. She did come home a couple weekends ago, and that was awesome. It is weird now thinking about. We're just going to tangent off for a second. Thanksgiving, we have noticed in our family that we don't tend to eat the turkey. It tends to kind of mummify in our refrigerator. So I am floating the idea out to people that maybe we'll do a brisket or something, or smoke something else, or just get a breast, because we don't seem to eat all that much turkey anymore. But and I don't know how to feel about that. I did break down last year and bought some homemade sides because I tend to make the sides like a couple weeks ahead and freeze them. So that's probably what I'll do this year, but I might break down and just get the gravy casserole pre-made. I'm not a big ham fan, but if the family wants ham, I'll be good with a good ribeye, so that's probably what I'll be eating. But it is weird when you realize that maybe you don't need the big turkey anymore. It is kind of a weird season to be in when you have adult kids that might be going different places, and we don't seem to be big on turkey. So we are in a bit of a conundrum. I have had people ask. So every kid gets to pick out one dish that they want to eat for Thanksgiving. And my middle feral son wants cinnamon rolls. So we'll probably do those for breakfast. But he's like, no, I want them for Thanksgiving. And the other one wants shrimp noodles. So I don't know where we're going.
Is to take care of two kids so close in age, like Kimberly and JC.
A few days.
Did that
Let's see if the audio.
Her mom says something about me. She sticks up for me and tells me about it. I remember telling that Kathy said that she wishes me and Chris would move away. Kimberly says to her that if she moves, that Chrissy would move with us. Kathy said no, she won't either. And Kimberly, she is their daughter. Then Kathy said no, she isn't. If someone said that about you would be mad. So did I? I told Chris, and Chris got mad. When Kathy asked to take Chrissy off, Chris said no, she better be here when I get back. And Kathy got mad, and I laughed. You probably think this is stupid, but if you had someone trying to be mother to your daughter, you would get mad too.
And these would all be things, I mean, you've got to imagine. And I will say that there was some concrete evidence that Chris may have laid hands on Melissa. So there was police reports filed about DV versus Chris from Melissa. But this all sounds like, again, and with the wisdom of being much older than Melissa was at the time, of course you're going to make, your life's problems someone else's issues. The fact that maybe you're not having the best relationship with your children, or parenthood is super hard and you didn't really anticipate that because you were a teenager. It does seem like she is playing Peter against Paul. To her mother, she bitches about, Chris's mother, but probably to Chris's mother, she bitches about her parents. I mean, again, this is not a dynamic that's out of the ordinary. So I do understand where the state is going with this letter, but this is definitely, again, not something that is out of the realm of how a young adult would think when they don't want to take responsibility for maybe their own actions as far as life consequences. Melissa was dating other people from the Waffle House at the time. There were allegations that she might have been into some illegal activities. So she was not being the most adult and responsible person. Does that mean that she deserved to end up in trash bags? Absolutely not. I don't think anyone agrees with that. But and I get it. Look, if I lost a family member, losing a person, you see how editing happens. We always want to think the best of the loved ones that we've lost. But Melissa was engaging in some very risky behavior with a lot of different people, and that was kind of glossed over by the state.
We do move. They are not going to know where we are living. Every time they go off, they have to take Chrissy and don't even ask. They get her all ready and leave. I'm supposed to have my own car soon. Then I will bring Chrissy and let you see her. Bye for now, Melissa.
And this is a letter that Chrissy wrote to her mother. Is that fair to say from what you read?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure. Does it appear from what you read that's a letter that Chrissy wrote to her mother?
This is a letter that Chrissy wrote to her mother?
A letter that Melissa wrote to her mother.
In my opinion, it doesn't sound like Melissa, but it does state her name on there.
And it's signed by her?
Yes. It says bye for now, Melissa.
And so in that letter, Melissa actually wanted her mother to at least spend time with her children. Is that fair to say?
In that letter?
Yes. And is it fair to say that she actually would have preferred her mother to have her children rather than Kathy, who's your mother? Is that fair?
Except that what she was talking about as far as getting things, in the context that I understood it in that letter, were photos from Chrissy, maybe a photo shoot with the little girl Chrissy in it. Sounds like there was a little bit of, family drama over who was going to get the biggest print. So basically, where the state is going with this is that Chrissy was, or not Chrissy, tag on it, all these names. Melissa was unalived so that Chris's mother could get custody because Melissa had changed her mind about who the custody was going to go to of her children. There's a lot of things that the state is kind of grasping at straws here and going by the family's kind of recollections versus the actual evidence that they have. There is an alternate suspect. There are several alternate suspects in this case. First and foremost, the very big alternate suspects are both Norma or Carl Patton Jr. So their victims in the Flint River unaliving cases were found near the river, either in the river and some of them were in trash bags. Now, they weren't dismembered, but, there have been allegations from the defense from the beginning that Melissa was actively trying to kind of extricate herself from her family. She did not like her family, and she was apparently in knowledge or came to the knowledge that her parents were involved in the Flint River murders, and she was silenced because several of the Flint River murders for Carl Patton Jr. and Norma were actually red rums that were done in the service of silencing witnesses that could potentially go to the police. So those are the first ones. There was also a gentleman that she was dating-ish from the Waffle House that has been in and out of prison on, I believe, manslaughter and not street legal pharmaceutical charges. So there are several other suspects. Melissa was known to be kind of somewhat transient in where she was living. She was hanging out with different people. She wasn't coming home in the time between her and Chris officially kind of splitting up and when she was reported missing. So there are other, alternate theories that are out there. And that's not to say that had there been a good investigation done, more signs wouldn't point to Chris. But the Waffle House guy was definitely very sketchy. The parents' involvements, the parents' kind of weird idea that Norma and Carl Jr. were both emphatic and under the delusion that if they were able to facilitate Chris Wolfenbarger getting prosecuted and convicted of Melissa's death, that Carl Patton Jr. would somehow get probation or parole on his, multiple life sentences. So there is a lot going on in this, and I think a thorough investigation would have been great, but because items and evidence has been lost, I don't know that we'll ever get the true accounting of what happened to this woman, and it's so very sad.
Again, in that letter.
Now, you also, I think, discussed on direct examination that you were not aware of any cards that Melissa sent to her mother?
You have to answer out loud. Thank you.
Permission to approach?
Go ahead.
I'm going to show you what's already been admitted. It states it's in the 67, 68, 69, and 70. You take a moment to look at those.
I know, it's weird. It's weird to me too. And again, I see where the state is going, that, Melissa might have had a better or a more communicative relationship with her parents than, other factors might have indicated. But again, to me, this is really normal to kind of gloss over things, to paint other people as the bad guy, and to try to maintain some sort of semblance of a relationship with difficult people. It basically, Melissa, sending cards on Mother's Day, on Valentine's Day, doesn't mean that the parents and her have a great relationship. It might just be something that she's always done. Again, trying to use her sending cards or letters once in a while as definitive proof that she was totally okay with her parents taking the children, it's a little skint for me.
States in 67. Is this a letter addressed to Norma Patton?
Yes.
And is your understanding Norma Patton is Melissa's mother?
Yes.
And does it say birthday?
Yes.
And does it say happy birthday?
Yes.
In 97 with an asterisk?
Yes.
And does it say love you, Chrissy and Joey?
Yes.
And is Chrissy and Joey Melissa and Chris's children?
Yes.
Looking at State's Exhibit 68, is that addressed to Carl and Norma Patton?
Yes.
Right. And does it say anniversary?
Yes.
And does it say Melissa Wolfenbarger at the top?
Yes.
And is Melissa their daughter?
Yes.
And does this letter or this card say on the side, special anniversary, which is to a very special couple, have a happy anniversary, love Melissa, Chrissy, and Joey?
Yes.
And does it read in handwriting, happy anniversary, this year I am going to take you out to lunch, my only day off.
Again, I mean, it can be very normal for families to operate on a certain level of dysfunction. It can be very normal for them to still not be very, very close and have all of these very surface level communications.
Off in June 6th, meet us there at 11:45 to 12 at Ryan's. You and Dad can bring JC and Kimberly.
Yes.
Okay. Does this appear to be a letter or a card sent by Melissa to her parents for their anniversary?
Yes, it appears to be.
Now showing you State's Exhibit 69. Is this appears to be a Father's Day card?
Yes.
Does it say for a dad who means so much?
Yes.
It means so much to know our family can always depend on you.
Yes.
Have a very happy Father's Day.
Yes.
Love, Melissa.
Yes.
Hallmark is loving the free, the free advertising. If you can't say it with Hallmark, you can say it with the 99 cent, Walmart card.
Does the card further read, Dad, with all the things you have to take care of, you always take care of your family first.
Yes.
And on a bag, does it say a father's love is
Up to and including taking out, the people that might get you sent to the pokey for a while. Yeah, he went above and beyond in protecting his freedom. I mean, his family.
a promise made deep in the heart of a man, a promise to care for his family that keeps every day of his life?
Yes.
Is this also signed by Melissa?
Yes.
And was it sent to her father, Carl Patton?
Yes.
State's Exhibit number 7. Is this a Mother's Day card?
It says Mother's Day, yes.
Does it say, is it addressed to Norma Patton?
Yes.
Does the card read, it is the only thing in the house that doesn't have to be swept, polished, watered, cooked, picked up after, or
Okay, I pick out Mother's Day cards and I read them. Now, most of my cards are irreverent. I don't usually do the Hallmark, sensitive thoughts ones, unless it's for people that I know generally enjoy that. I tend to deal with things through dark humor, but I am perceptive enough to realize that not everyone deals that way. So I tend to get cards for people that I think that they would like better. But again, what in the cavalcade of Hallmark I don't careism? We might go forward on this. I am done reading Hallmark cards as tea leaves in
did she ever
anything.
talk to you about a July 1998 incident in which your brother pulled her hair and dragged her down the street?
No.
No, or you don't remember?
No, I don't remember.
Do you know if she talked to you about the fact that your brother, was upset because she went to the male neighbor's house who was up the street?
No.
No, or you don't remember?
No, I never had that conversation.
Okay. Do you recall her ever telling you that she loved your brother, but she wanted to leave him?
No.
No, you don't remember? No, it didn't happen.
No, I don't remember.
Do you remember detectives back in around 2003 coming to meet with you regarding Melissa's disappearance?
Yes.
And do you remember it?
Now, if you want to ask me speculatively who I think's responsible, I think that I am going to say that I have a lot of questions about the Pattons. The family, and you can tell that Carl and Norma had a great deal of issues with Melissa's children going to Kathy Wolfenbarger or Chris's mom. And I do think that if Melissa had actually been forthright, if she finally, in a peak of anger, in a fit of just, I am done dealing with your BS, dad and mom, said, I'm glad the kids went with Kathy. I didn't want them to end up with you. I could foresee that. Again, this is speculation. This is something that I have no proof of. But because Norma and Carl strike me as very clannish, these are our children. These, they must stay in our family line. I do see it as a very big and possibly unforgivable action for Melissa to have taken to basically state implicitly by giving custody of her children to Chris's parents that she didn't think that her parents were good enough to have custody of the children. I do think that if there was a situation where she brought up their past, that could have ended up going very badly, very quickly. There's a lot of unanswered things about the parents that I find greater links with her possibly have coming to foul play with her parents rather than with anyone else. But it is a multi-layered case, and unfortunately, because the investigation was so poor and the evidence retrieval was so poor, we'll never know the answers. But I have a lot more question about what Norma and Carl did than Chris at this point.
Being a Detective Calhoun.
I don't remember who it was.
Do you remember talking to him about your friendship with Melissa?
I don't remember exactly, no.
I'm sorry, say that last part again.
No, I don't remember.
Okay. And I apologize. Do you remember talking on the phone with any detectives back in 2003?
No, I don't remember talking on the phone.
Did you tell that detective that Melissa wrote you a letter?
No, I've never said she's written me a letter.
So is it your testimony today that you never told a detective that Melissa wrote you a letter prior to her disappearance?
It is my testimony that she did not write me a letter.
And that you never told a detective?
I never told a detective that she wrote me a letter.
And that in the letter or either in a conversation, again, Melissa told you she loved your brother, but she was getting ready to leave him.
She's never told me that.
Do you remember Melissa telling you about a guy that she met at the Waffle House?
No.
And do you remember telling any of that to a detective over the phone in 2003?
I never said that. I didn't on the phone, no. Never.
Okay. Your mom, Kathy Wolfenbarger, she raised Melissa and Chris's children?
Yes.
Is it fair to say that your mother never talked about Melissa to her children after she disappeared?
Can you rephrase that?
Sure. Is it fair to say that your mom did not speak about Melissa to her children after Melissa disappeared?
Now, it is really hard, and I have been on this path myself. So to speak to little tiny children about death and permanence and all of that, it's really hard, and there's no guidebook to tell you how to do this. I remember I quizzed my pediatrician, I quizzed, nurses I knew, and, preschool teachers. I tried to get a consensus on how I was supposed to explain, this very concrete, hard subject with my kiddos. And I basically came up with trying to explain it in a way that they could understand at the time. So, I don't know what Dr. Phil would say about that, but it is very hard to talk about these. And, maybe she avoided it. I mean, for a long time, I didn't really speak very much about my first husband because I did not want to poison my daughters. And I just legitimately at that point had not a nice, kind word to say. And I figured it was better if I couldn't say anything kind at the moment to just not say anything beyond kind of the way I had explained to them what happened. That his spirit was sick, that you can be sick in your body or in your spirit. So that's kind of, again, there is no handbook to explain to children why their mom isn't ever going to be back or why, your father's never coming back or things like that. So however this family ended up struggling through it, I think it's kind of shitty for the state to come in and say, well, your mom didn't explain to toddlers where her mother, that their mother was dismembered to them at a young age. Yeah, I mean, that seems like something I wouldn't do that.
I don't know.
Yes,
Is it fair to say that your brother did not speak about Melissa to their children after Melissa disappeared?
I don't remember. But they did take the children to Melissa's funeral, so I'm sure at some point they did talk to her, both of the children, because they were younger.
Would you agree with me that the funeral was in 2003?
I don't remember exactly when it was.
let's speak about the funeral. At the funeral, did you know that Kathy and Chris didn't tell the children that it was an actual funeral?
Again, while it might be questionable to look at it in hindsight, I can tell you these are incredibly difficult, heart-wrenching, and really fraught conversations to have with small children. You never know what level they'll be able to understand things at. So, and I find this particularly gross. Again, having walked through something similar, that this state prosecution is bringing up, their decision to maybe protect small children from the very hard, painful reality that is difficult for us adults to understand. It's difficult for us to make sense of grief. And maybe they just didn't have the bandwidth at that time to explain it to a 3-year-old. So I hate this argument. Like, I really do. This bothers me on a personal level because I've walked through it, and I'm sure people have all of the opinions about how I did it, and that's fine, but you didn't walk through it. So until you have to look into innocent children's eyes and explain the reality that their parent isn't coming home forever, and you don't know how to explain this clusterfuck of events, but it doesn't make sense to you as an adult, having to translate all of those feelings and keep it on a kid level is incredibly difficult. So I hate this argument.
Don't know.
Did you know that Chris nor Kathy actually wanted to go to the funeral?
I don't remember what their feelings were.
Let me ask, when the kids were younger, did you ever talk to the children about Melissa, your friend?
I don't remember exactly.
Do you remember ever telling the kids that Melissa was their mother and she disappeared?
I don't remember how and what was discussed.
Do you ever remember?
And again, if you boil down the story to something that a 2 and 3-year-old might understand, you might in fact say that she disappeared. Again, I don't find this at all questionable. Youngest children, it's very hard to take subjects that confound us adults into something that children can understand. And maybe Chris's family was exactly in my position where they didn't have a lot of nice things to say about Melissa at the time. So instead of, destroying even the concept of Melissa as a mother, they just kept quiet and let the children get to an age where they could understand the more adult threads that underline this issue.
For showing the kids pictures of Melissa?
I don't remember.
Now, in 1996, is it fair that Christina gave temporary guardianship to your mother?
Yes.
I'm sorry, was that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you. That's okay.
And, Your Honor, this time, the state is on acts to admit States Exhibit 81 and 82, which are self-authenticating documents from the Henry County Probate Court regarding the guardianship of both Christina Wolfenbarger and Joseph Wolfenbarger.
Mr. McDermott?
No objection.
81 and 82 are admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
No.
Did you know, or do you know?
Anders, this is actually the sister of the defendant who is on trial for unaliving, dismembering, and putting his ex-wife's head and limbs into trash bags. Now, the things that do point to Christopher, these trash bags and skull with the limbs on it were found very incredibly close to where he used to work, and Melissa and Christopher, where the marital home was. So those are very indicative of Chris possibly being involved in the case, but they waited to luminol the marital home until 2003 to 2007. So there were many intervening years for any evidence of this dismemberment to basically go poof in the night. And the sort of ID of the limbs being to a white male and the skull being to possibly another young white male, you know, did really hinder this investigation.
If on July 23rd, 1998, Melissa dissolved that temporary guardianship?
I don't know.
Well, first, from State's Exhibit E1. And on State's Exhibit A1, am I showing you this document?
Yes.
And does this document read on a page that's clipped in the matter of Christina Wolfenbarger petition to terminate temporary guardianship of minor?
Yes.
And does it say the petition of Melissa Wolfenbarger shows, one, petitioner is the natural, as mother and father of the above named minor? Does it say that?
Yes.
And does it say that on 8/28/96, the court appointed Kathy Wolfenbarger as temporary guardian
Yes.
of the above named petitioner and temporarily relinquished parental rights?
Yes.
And then it says, wherefore petitioner prays that the court enter an order dissolving the temporary guardianship instant.
Yes.
Okay, and has her signing, it looks like Melissa's signature, or a signature, I should say.
Yes.
Okay. And is the date of this July 23rd, 1998?
Yes.
Did you know that that is 2 days after Melissa called the police on your brother?
No, I didn't know.
And you also see in State's Exhibit 82, the same document, petition to terminate temporary guardianship of a minor, and it's the same document for Joseph.
Yes.
And is that also on the 23rd of July, 1998?
Yes.
And were you aware that about a week later, on July 29th, 1998, Melissa then asked for permanent guardianship, or gave your mother a permanent guardianship of the kids about 2 weeks later?
Yeah, State, where are you going with she dropped the temporary guardianship and then gave over permanent guardianship? Now, again, this is a point that is contested hotly between Norma and Melissa's family members that really did believe that Chris was guilty, and the defense. As to what Melissa's motivations were in reality, I don't think we ever got a really good idea or understanding, but it does kind of put a chink in that narrative from the state and from Melissa's mother, particularly, that stated she was a young mother who would never willingly sign over her rights or go missing or absent from her children's life. So it doesn't look very good when the state's narrative has been that this was a young mother who would never leave her children, when it in fact shows that she did willingly give up the parental guardianship. Now, I will say that Chris's sister, Kimberly, who is on the stand, is doing a great job. Norma and the other witnesses for the state, we are in the defense's case in chief, but for the state would definitely get very rattled and very kind of almost aggressive or dismissive with the defense during cross. So she's doing a really good job of waiting, listening to all the questions, or all the question and then answering or being candid when she doesn't remember. I think she's doing a good job on the stand, but you can definitely tell that this is not her comfy spot. This has probably taken up just tons of family, energy, emotionally, financially. paying for good defense attorneys. You know, this is probably something that's hung over her family since 2003. So I think she's doing an admirable job, but you can definitely tell that she's going to need a big glass of wine at the end of today.
Yeah, I don't know. From the documents, yes, but.
And let me ask you this, did you know that on the day that she gave permanent guardianship was the same day she dropped the temporary protective order that she took out against her?
I don't know.
How would you describe Melissa's demeanor?
I would say she was quiet.
Was she easily influenced by others?
I don't. Yes and no.
Okay. Why do you say yes and no?
I don't remember.
Because that could be applicable to every single one of us. We might not be easily influenced by people outside of our general sphere of influence. Like if a random person says, "Hey Mo, you should be blonde again," not going to be that influenced. But if my mother constantly says, "Would you just go back to your natural hair color for me?" Yeah, that's going to have a lot more sway. So this is yeah, all of us are both easily influenced and not easily influenced. Like all of us, I think, have probably marked ourselves safe from eating Tide Pods, even though TikTok told us it would totes be okay. So I think that that's true for everyone.
Completely, but yes, I think I don't know how to put it into words.
Now, when was the last time you remember seeing Melissa?
I don't remember, I'm sorry.
Can you remember, was it at your family's home?
I don't remember.
Do you remember what she looked like the last time you saw her?
She looked like herself.
And when you say herself, describe for the jury what she looked like.
She just had a cute teddy bear round face with dark hair.
Dark hair.
This is also asking, it is so subjective because even though I've always lifelong been a people watcher, I don't think this was 2003. So 20 years ago, would I maybe have understood? I may have observed things, but not understood the context or not have been able to rationalize out, maybe all of the influences or perspectives or things that Melissa was going through. So I might have been a much more surface level observer in my early 20s, whereas now in, my current age bracket, I would be able to give you, she was really nervous in these situations. She tended to edit stories based on which audience she was with. But these aren't things that I think I would have taken a note of at 20 and maybe understood all the significance. And then asking someone to go back in their memories and use all of their accumulated life, experience to evaluate someone else's state of mind is a bit like reading tea leaves with the ghost of Miss Cleo, if you ask me.
They're like down to her shoulders, about your length. When you say dark, like what's
Yes, I am artificially intelligent.
No, I don't remember exactly the length of her hair.
Okay. Was it longer or shorter than your hair right now?
Maybe a little bit longer than mine.
Do you know if you saw her around the holidays?
I want to say I think that's maybe Thanksgiving, but I can't remember exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another part of this story that is really strange. Kind of like the Megan Boswell case, we sort of did get several different potential last dates that Melissa was seen. So there really is kind of no pinpoint day that Melissa actually went missing. And this is Christopher's sister. So we have started on the states, or not the states, the defense's case. I will be doing up until the end of Chris's sister, and then I will be calling it off for the day because I didn't realize Mr. Moe had to turn off the power. So hopefully this witness will get done in the next little bit. Mr. Moe can turn off the power and we can get back to this tomorrow.
Now, are you familiar with any of the podcasts that have come out regarding this case?
No.
Now, testified you all were close. When you didn't hear from her in a while, did you get concerned?
About the time that they moved to Atlanta, we were not close. I was a teenager, I was doing my own thing, and I had a boyfriend, so I was more focused on me.
And this makes total sense to me. Teenage time is for that very, very deep self-focus so you can kind of figure out who you are. While it's a bit annoying to, kind of deal with teenagers in this extreme kind of self-focused time, it's because they have a lot of charitably, it's because they have a lot of deep things to kind of figure out about themselves as a person, their likes, their dislikes, their rules in the sand and things like that. So I would imagine that a teenage girl who had a brother who was married and their marriage was somewhat dramatic, I wouldn't pay attention. I wouldn't notice these things. I would not put importance on things, that I observed at the age of a teenager. Even being a really big people watcher all of my life, things that would stand out to me as an older, more mature person would not have stood out to me as a teen.
And I get it, teenager. At some point in time, did you ever, when she stopped coming around, did you ever question that she could be?
I was told that they split up. I don't remember exactly when.
Did you ever question if she came by to see her children?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Now, in the year of 2000, did you come to learn that there was a missing persons report regarding Melissa?
I don't remember exactly when I learned.
Do you remember speaking to police in the early 2000s about Melissa's disappearance?
Yes.
Did you ever speak to your brother about maybe talking to the police about Melissa being gone for a long time?
I don't remember what I discussed.
And is it fair that the only people that reported Melissa missing was her mother?
I'm not sure who reported her missing.
And is it fair to say that the only people who have been trying to get some justice for Melissa are her parents, her mother, and her sister?
I'm not sure who.
That is a shitty question. It's not a proper question. I get where the state is going with this, but the Wolfenbarger's family and probably this young teenage girl was probably dealing with the upheaval that her mother now had to deal with two very small children, and Chris had kind of effed on off. Now, Chris is not innocent in being like a good person or a good husband or good father. From, the various clips and kind of hints I've got, he was fairly detached. That being said, to kind of put the onus on everyone else to find justice for Melissa, when it is in fact your job, Miss Adrienne Love, to get justice for Melissa, you would think, you think you would have done a better job investigating. You think you would have found evidence. It's almost like you could be charged with doing a craptastic job on getting justice for Melissa as well.
Court indulgence for one moment. Sure.
God bless the closed captioning, because where else could we get pork indulgence for a moment? I mean, it's not halal in all nations, but a pork indulgence. It's bacon time, people.
A few moments ago.
Yes.
I remember reading a letter that was purportedly from Melissa to her mother just a few moments ago.
Yes.
And do you remember her mentioning any kind of time frame in that letter?
No.
Okay. Do you remember her saying that she was announcing to her mother in that letter that she was pregnant with Joey,
Yes.
or with who would become Joey, and that she was thinking of getting her tubes tied after that?
The fetus, futuristically known as Joey, according to Sarah Boone.
Yes.
And you remember her reading in there that it said her next appointment for the doctor would be at the end of April.
Yes.
So that would mean that that letter the time frame for that letter would have had to have been in April of 1996.
Yes.
And that would be 2 years before the
Do you remember
allegations
telling,
of DV.
The letter communicating, oh, never mind, I'll back off on that. You grew up, as you said, having a lot of interaction with Melissa because of your grandparents' house, right?
Yes.
And at some point, now, were you older or younger than Melissa?
Younger.
Okay. And how old would you have been in 1998?
I would then.
Sorry to ask you your age in front of national TV, but sorry.
I think I would have been 15, 16,
Okay.
maybe.
And during that, as you said, that was
Oh no, at 15 or 16, even though I was a consummate people watcher, I was still in that self-absorbed. Like a lot of the information I intook was how I perceived it. A lot of it wouldn't have been objective, it would have been so much in just my own personal lens with my 15 years of experience. So, yeah, my observations as a 15-year-old Mo would not be as cogent or coherent as my observations now.
the time you learned to drive,
Yes.
and you started dating,
Yes.
and you started developing your own life.
Yes.
And at about that time is when Christopher and Melissa moved up to Atlanta.
Yes.
And at that point, did you stay close to Melissa?
No.
Okay. Did you talk to her much at all after that point?
No.
Okay. So after 1998, early 98, you kind of diverged into separate lives.
Yes.
Okay. So that would explain perhaps why you don't have very many memories of conversations with her or.
Objection leading, Your Honor.
Sustained. You can rephrase.
Okay. So do you think that would explain why you don't have memories of many conversations with her?
Objection leading.
It's argumentative. It's not really leading. Let me rephrase.
I'll just move on, Your Honor.
That being said, the jury doesn't unhear that. So it does kind of place more, it puts more context into why this, sister maybe didn't have a lot of observations, wasn't really paying attention to what was going on in her older brother and sister-in-law's life. So it does kind of give context and really puts in there, realistically, myself as a 15 or 16-year-old, I would say hashtag RSVP me no to that drama with my brother and sister-in-law, and just ignore the hell out of it. So,
Sure.
so State, I don't think you made the point you think you did.
Please find me the document you showed her, and that's not the request for dissolve it. You put it on the back. Smart.
They did that.
Yes.
And it says a petition to terminate temporary guardianship of minor.
Yes.
And she asked you about the dates on that letter.
Yes.
And it says, wherefore petitioner prays that the court enter an order dissolving, doesn't it? And state emphasized the word dissolving when she asked you that question, didn't she?
Yes.
But she didn't emphasize the word praise, did she?
No.
Because this is a petition to the court,
Yes.
correct? It's asking the court to do something, right?
Yes.
And did the court follow through with that something?
Yes.
Or have you seen a document that says the court actually ordered
Oh,
the
no, I was
dissolution?
going by that.
Okay,
No, I haven't seen it, no.
correct. And would it surprise you to find that the court never followed through with that order?
Would it surprise me? Yes.
Would it surprise you that the state tried to show something out of context to bolster their bullshit case? Why? No, actually, it doesn't. Because nothing shocks me about this trial anymore. But yeah, that big thing that the state was trying to show that Melissa wanted the kids to not be under the guardianship was a petition, and the court didn't act upon it. Who'da thunk Georgia actually doing something right for children?
Dissolve. Let me rephrase it so I'm clear. That was a petition to dissolve the temporary guardianship.
Yes.
And would it surprise you to find out that the court did not grant that to Melissa? It did not dissolve Kathy's temporary.
Objection, we did.
Overruled.
Would it surprise you to find out that the court did not dissolve Kathy's guardianship based on that document?
Would it surprise me?
Yeah,
No.
exactly. Are you aware of the process for dissolving a temporary guardianship?
No.
It would have surprised you to find out that the court requires it to be in the interest of the children?
That would appear so.
Okay. Backing up to the April 1996 date when the letter to Melissa's mom was purportedly written. Are you familiar?
That is actually the defense attorney I like. There is a shorter, angrier, bearded attorney that tends to have just a smugly attitude. I'm okay with ponytail lawyer, except for the fact that and this is totally in my head canon, I'm guessing he washes his hair with like Dawn dish soap and no conditioner, and yet it still, looks straight and good in a ponytail. I bet he takes his hair out and he doesn't even have a ponytail dent where the little scrunchie dents his hair. It's just not fair. Men should not be allowed to have such glorious hair, and I assume that he uses like the 3-in-1 body shampoo hair conditioner thing that Mr. Mo does and has shiny hair, and I'm over here going into Hawk for like expensive shampoos with no sulfates in it and still have to spend hours on my hair.
This document?
I've seen it, yes.
You've seen it? Can you tell us whose handwriting that is?
It appears to be Melissa's.
And whose name is on that document as a signature?
Melissa Wolfenbarger.
And does that appear to be an original document or a copy of the document?
Appears to be original.
I'll show it to you earlier. Are we all done? Your Honor, if I could have a moment, we need a defense sticker.
Okay, and you're on Exhibit 11, so.
Thank you. We cleared off our desk for the court yesterday, and
The Mosey is strong in this case.
to admit defense 11.
And what is Defense 11?
It is a handwritten document from Melissa, previously authorized to be under 807.
There's not, we might have had that conversation. It might very well be coming into evidence, but I haven't heard a foundation or an identification of what that document is yet, so.
Could you tell us what that document is?
Are you asking me to read this one?
No.
Don't read it yet. Just
It's not. I was just asking you if you recognize that document and if.
What I will say is I'm glad that this judge is sort of walking this witness through this. Again, for those of us who don't nerd out watching trials, there is sort of a rhythm that is a little bit uneffiable, ununderstandable if you don't geek out on the law. So, this judge kind of explaining how things go, definitely I like her kind of style, because you don't know this if you don't watch trials. You don't know, hey, you asked me to read this the last time, so I'll just read this again.
If you do, what you recognize it to be.
I do recognize the document, and it is a letter to my mother
And a letter to your mother, for what purpose?
stating her.
Hey, nope, sorry. Don't read it. It's not in evidence. Who's it from?
It's from Melissa.
Okay.
We had already covered that.
Okay, I apologize. I didn't hear that part.
Okay. So may I move it into evidence at this point?
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Defense 11 is admitted.
Now, would you please tell us the content of that letter?
It's Melissa telling my mother that she wants to give her temporary custody of Chrissy and the baby that she's carrying. And it's dated June 20th, 1996.
June 20th, 1996?
Yes.
And that would be roughly 2 months after April of 1996?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Anything else for this witness, Ms. Hilton?
Just to,
No.
do you know
We
if
were
Chris
so
forced her to write that
close.
letter?
No, just like I don't know if she wrote that letter. I don't. So, no, I don't believe Chris forced her to write that letter.
But you don't know.
I wasn't with them
No further questions.
24 hours.
That is an odd question. Now, it isn't something outside of a very coercive or controlling relationship where, you know, the controlling or dominant partner will edit stories, will, you know, make the their victim or the more subservient spouse kind of parrot narrative stories versus what really happened. So it could have been that Chris maybe did encourage her to write this, but there is no evidence, and this woman wouldn't know. She has basically attested to the fact that she was a teenager and she was doing her own thing. So any sort of knowledge about the inner workings of Chris and Melissa's marriage would be beyond her.
Mr. McDermott, I'm sorry. Anything else for this witness?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. You may step down.
Thank you.
The witness may be excused. Mr. McDermott?
Witness may
All right, we are going to be stopping there for today because Mr. Moe does have to do some electronical work that does require him to turn off all the power, and I don't want him getting electrocuted. So I do have to get off of my computer and, you know, let him do some work. Because I may or may not have accidentally done some laundry, and he was supposed to be drywalling today, and I didn't realize that he had to unhook the washing machine and dryer. So my like type A self was like, it is 5 a.m. and I'm starting a load of laundry. Mr. Moe is going to be exceptionally proud of me. And Mr. Moe was like, I have to put up drywall. We need to, you know, I need to unhook the washer and dryer. And I was like, you didn't specifically tell me that. I assumed that you could put the drywall on and I could do laundry and we could get stuff done together. Like I was on lock to be a fully functional adult today. And then he was like, no, I have to, you know, put up drywall. So I am going to get off of here so Mr. Moe can get his chores done. I'm probably going to watch Aliens because after the Sigourney Weaver, you know, musical of Aliens this morning from the Cursed Clips segment of Mornings with Moe, I suddenly have the deep desire to watch Aliens. So regardless of whether you are going to watch Aliens and fold laundry, don't be peanut butter and jealous of my glamorous life, or you're just going to hang out and stay on the internet. Also, let me find someone to send you guys over to. I hope you have a great day, and the Petty Express will be back again tomorrow, picking up where we left off today on the defense's case in chief, and hopefully getting to the point where we figure out, well, what the actual hell went on. Now, I'm sending you over to Nick Starro just because of the hair, but also he is covering the Brian Walsh final pre-trial hearing. So we will be continuing to finish up the Wolfenbarger case, and then I will be going into the Brian Walsh or Walshy. I don't know if the E is silent or not. I'm going to have to look at it. But I will be looking at that trial. We will be covering the pretrial hearings. Now, tomorrow, jury selection does start, but I don't know if that will be live streamed. Sometimes in big cases, the voir dire of the jury is streamed. Sometimes it's not. If it's streamed, it seems like they are doing jury selection far enough in advance that even if we're a couple days behind, we should be able to cover all of it. So have a lovely day. We are going to finish up with this dumpster fire of a case and then go on to Brian Walsh and do all of the pretrial stuff. So we are going to be doing both of those. But thanks for hanging out on the Petty Express. Glad to get back to it after a while hanging out with Megan and going to Georgia again for the Tim's case. But we're back in Georgia and the Fulton effery is among us. And don't forget that we now have bingo cards. So we can play bingo on the Petty Express and Mornings with Mo. I will see you all later. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, but have a sassy mouth and carry a can of bitch fire because, well, you might just be going through Fulton County and trying to, escape a misdemeanor or a life sentence. I'll catch you later. Give Nick some love. He is covering the final hearing, so get your true crime watch hours in today. Bye, you guys.